various locations via the miracle of Skype, it's the 40th anniversary season of the LTN Hour. Let's talk NASCAR with your host, Todd Bailing, co-hosts Brian Schmidt, PJ Noodleman, and producer Dangerous Dan Margetta. Call the show anytime at 414-421-7901. And now, the creator and host of the fastest hour in radio, Todd Bailing.
You know, I'm not real sure that they expected more out of that race last night than 2 hours and 38 minutes of the Kyle Larson show. Hello there, everybody. Todd Bailing in beautiful Greendale, Wisconsin, joined by my three partners. Brian Schmidt is over in Utzberg, Wisconsin. Hi, Brian.
Morning. Yes, that was what you would call an ass-kicking of epic proportions last night. I mean, I have never... Unbelievable.
62 out of 500 laps. PJ Noodleman on the other coast, Trempealeau, Wisconsin. Hi, PJ.
Hey there. It was a race, for sure.
Kind of. Dan Margetta in St. Francis. Hi.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, in the words of the late Scott Bloomquist, how'd y'all enjoy that, huh?
101.277 miles per hour. Kyle Larson led, like, as Brian said, 462 laps. It was 8 lead changes among 4 drivers. That'd be a real good drinking game today. Who were well, you knew Kyle Larson, and if you watched the beginning of it, you knew that Bowman led a bunch of laps. The other two, that would be good. The answer to the trivia question is Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace. And it was only because it was during a pit cycle. Trust me, that's the kind of ass-kicking it was for the 28th win in the illustrious and yet not even close to being done career of Kyle Larson. I have to say, our local boy, Josh Bilicki, was in the race last night. Now, you wouldn't know it normally. And he's such a good hustler. What he's best at, apparently, is finding sponsors and selling them stuff that I'm not real sure what he could say to get a sponsor. Like, for instance, he had Arby's for a sponsor last night. He must have gone to the folks at Arby's and said, I'm going to make sure that you see Arby's all night long on television, because we got to see him. We got to see Arby's 33 times last night, because that's how many times he was running with the leaders. He finished 33, count them, laps down in 34th position. There's good reason for that, Brian, I guess, right?
Well, that's not the greatest equipment in the garage. In fact, I would say that's probably the most subpar equipment in the garage area. That's Carl Long's equipment. You know, Carl Long doesn't do a lot of cup racing these days. He's finally put a car back together again to get out there and run in the Cup Series, and he's just trying to make ends meet. You know, I don't believe that's a chartered car, right, Dan?
No, not at all.
No, so there's no money there then. If you think about how this game works now, if you don't have a charter, you're not getting any money. So, as we all know, racing is a direct reflection on how much money is spent versus how fast you're going to go. So,
I'm guessing the cost to sponsor that car isn't as great as the other cars either. And that, I mean, so I mean,
33 times he's on television.
On the flip side, he ran the Xfinity race and then finished like 20th or something. So I mean,
as Jim Carrey, as the Grinch once said, "What is the deal? Why would anybody sponsor a car that is not? It's going to be a second slower than the rest of the field. What's the point?" I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I guess I should know things like that. It's just nice to compete. It's really nice to be out there on a big stage. I guess. Either way, that's not the only race they had. As a matter of fact, Brian, Josh did a hell of a lot better in the Xfinity race that Cole Custer won, huh?
Yes, he was much more competitive in that race, and you know those cars raced a lot better on that track than the Cup cars did. So again, really don't know what the difference is between the two, because if you remember back in spring, that Cup race at Bristol was pretty thrilling, and everybody was kind of saying, "Hey, we're back, the old Bristol. You have, tires not lasting, slam bang affair, lots of passing." That was not the case last night with those cars, and it's the exact same tire
Yeah, how does that work, Brian? I mean, it's the
I don't
same
know.
tire, and you couldn't go 40 laps in the fall when it was colder. It's hotter here, which should be slicker,
Yeah,
right?
I don't understand, and nobody understands. And I listened to all the post race last night too, and everybody's scratching their head. They don't understand what was going on. You know, I mean, there was some comers and goers along the way. Guys would pass, you know, cars and that type of stuff. And I don't know if maybe it was the fact that Kyle Larson was that good. You know, maybe it was that they put the PJ1 down in the morning before.
I think
I don't know.
that had more to do with it than anything.
Yeah, and they mixed with two different compounds because you had a resin on the night before for the Xfinity race. They thought too much of that wore off, so they put the PJ1 down. But the PJ1 was only on about I think it was like a 3-foot strip along the bottom of the track.
That's enough to mess with the results, though.
Yeah, but I mean, you still didn't get the tire wear though, like we had in spring, up on the top of the concrete where there was no doctoring of the track. So I don't know. NASCAR is going to have to do a lot of research. I mean, this is one of their marquee events. You know, if you were to
Goodyear doesn't lie.
Yeah, if you were to rank the hierarchy of their races, this one is up there, the Bristol Night Race, and to have that kind of a display last night, yeah, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board.
Only 5 cautions in the race for a total of 36 laps, which included the 2 stages, which, oh, by the way, Kyle Larson won those also. That's only 7.2% of the entire race. You know, it's a fine line. Sometimes you say, oh, what a crap show that was. We had to watch 18 cautions, and it seemed like we saw more of the pace car than we saw racing. Or would you like an ass kicking like Young Money put on him last night? Well, I'll tell you what, there's somewhere in the middle is the best show. But the Kyle Larson fans were not complaining. Boy, oh boy. You know, I get it. It seems to me that Kyle Larson is capable of doing this every single race.
He's a machine.
He is. And my God, that was impressive. You take nothing away from him. It was not fun to watch.
You overlooked Chase Elliott's great run. I mean, Chase Elliott finished second, and you don't really hear a whole lot of talk about that. And he's been kind of, I don't know, very mediocre most of the season. He got that win early in the year, but for him to come back and have a second-place run, good results for him.
Yeah, no kidding. And the other side of the coin, even though it was a great day for the folks over at Hendrick Motorsports, not as good for the Joe Gibbs experience, where 2 playoff drivers were caught speeding, and it cost them their chance to move on. They were totally eliminated. Gibbs and Truex both speeding. By the way, Dan and PJ both picked Truex not to make it to the next round. The other 2 drivers that aren't making it were Keselowski, which I think is kind of a surprise. Boy, talk about a good news, bad news. That guy, if he shows up with a decent car, he has a decent race, but he was just missing in action last night. That takes Roush out of the playoffs. And, of course, Burton, well, we all picked Burton not to make it. That was kind of an easy pick. We didn't pick him to make it in there either, but he did. So those 4, the 21, 6, 54, and 19 cars, all eliminated for the next round, which starts next Saturday at Kansas. Next Sunday at Kansas. So, briefly, I was at the Dells last week, and I was unable to watch the race at Watkins Glen. I've seen replays of the last lap. I don't know if that whole race was as good as the last lap was, but Chris Buescher really showed me something there. When it was time to make whatever it took to pass SVG, the undisputed king of road course racing, as far as I'm concerned anyway, and put a muscle into that guy to get by on the last pass. It was really impressive. And Buescher, who's not in the playoffs, of course, and NASCAR absolutely loves it when they have one guy that's going to win a race when they're trying to, it's all about the playoffs. So, Buescher, nice job. And SVG, he's going to make the playoffs next year. Now he's got to learn to race on ovals, too. It's kind of a big deal. We're glad you're tuned in. We've got a few things to talk about. Yes, it's that time of year, and we'll come back with some of all that good stuff right after these.
As a growing manufacturing company, we needed security solutions. We chose Bonafide because of the services they offer, pricing, and trusted reputation. But it's their outstanding service and support that convinced us we made the right choice with Bonafide.
When businesses need security, they contact Bonafide Security Solutions. From locks and alarms to safes and surveillance, we do it all. We are Bonafide. We protect what you value. For your free security survey, call us today or visit bonafidesafe.com.
Fall has arrived, but there's still time to get your landscaping complete before the snow flies. And PMF Landscape Supply in West Bend has everything you need with fresh mulch arriving daily. From premium hardwood mulch to hemlock and pine bark to EnviroMulch in red, gold, chocolate brown, and black colors. PMF also has a large variety of decorative stone and granite, as well as field stone, topsoil, and compost. For all your landscaping needs, visit PMF Landscape Supply, 5470 River Road in West Bend. Call 262-338-8800 or visit pmflandscape.com. Friends of racing for many years. PMF Landscape Supply in West Bend.
The final night of racing to wrap up the season at the Fair Park in Plymouth is this Saturday. The Wisconsin Sprint Car Championships, IRA 410 Sprints, Plymouth Dirt Track Racing MSA Sprints, Wingless Sprints, and Lightning Sprints. Championship night for the Plymouth Dirt Track Racing Sprints. Pits open at 2, grandstand at 4:30, on-track action at 5. This is the biggest night of the season for the sprint cars. We'll see you there.
A win that rekindled memories of legends past.
What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here and try to run this play in the alley.
Jacobs breaks a tackle 40, 45, 50, 45, 40 down the left sideline to the 35 and angled out of bounds. Wow, what a run.
Sunday, the Packers head to Tennessee for a matchup with the Titans. Kickoff at noon on Milwaukee's home for the Packers. 97-3 The Game.
Sometimes it's more important than others. Today, it turns out it's kind of an important thing. You can download the LTN podcast on all major platforms, including iHeart and iTunes. Also, while you're busy downloading some stuff, you might want to check out Racing Nuggets if you haven't heard it yet. It's really good, and it stars one P.J. Noodleman. And it's worth checking out if you haven't yet. It's absolutely outstanding. Who you got this week, PJ?
Well, thanks, Todd. Yeah, right now Bentley Thompson, he's the 6 championship kiddo from the Bandoleros. He won a championship over at Slinger as well, a part of the 6. And this coming Tuesday, it'll be Charlie Menard. You might remember him from super late model days of gone by. But I got a chance to catch up with Charlie, so that episode will drop on Tuesday.
Well, I haven't heard that name in a while. He's Paul's cousin, am I right?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. This week, sometimes I'm a baseball fan, and I understand some terminology and some things that come from baseball, such as designated for assignment. Now, a lot of people don't know what that DFA thing means, and it took me a while to figure it all out. It means that when a team doesn't want a player anymore, they will put him on this, they'll designate him for assignment, which means he's kind of out there. We'll take offers for him. What do you want to give us for him? If nobody will give us anything for him, we're going to either cut him, or if he agrees, he goes to the minor leagues. Well, we had a kind of a thing here where Corey LaJoie was DFA'd by the Spire Motorsports team. They told him he wasn't going to be back next year. So what happens is, like in baseball, you get an offer. Well, apparently they got a real nice offer for Corey LaJoie. Dan, you're going to have to fill in some blanks here, but Rick Ware Motorsports traded Justin Haley to Spire Motorsports for Corey LaJoie. Haley is 25 years old. Corey LaJoie is 32 years old. And apparently it's going to take place right away after this race yesterday. They're going to be in their new teams next week at Kansas. What all goes into something like that?
Well, I think this had a big thing. Apparently there was a lawsuit out there, which I didn't realize too, that after this all got settled. There was some company, and I don't remember it is offhand, paid Rick Ware Racing some money to put Justin Haley in that car for 2 years. And this company went and made money by selling sponsorships for that car. And when they found that Haley wasn't going to be there anymore, they filed a lawsuit. Well, that went away. That when this trade happened, the lawsuit went away as well. So basically, they're going to get Corey LaJoie who's great at selling sponsors and doing goofy commercials, and he's a sponsor's dream that way. So maybe that satisfied that. I think Hendrick was involved as well too. If you saw Brad Keselowski, they asked him because when Haley went to that 51 car to begin with, it was supposed to be a Roush alliance there, and maybe in line for another Roush car down the road. And Brad said we couldn't. He had the opportunity of a career opportunity, and we couldn't match it with the Hendrick involvement, something like that. So I think Hendrick's involved with Spire, so that's what kind of got Haley over there. They wanted him, and to make this all work out, they just did the swap mid-season. It usually doesn't happen that way, but I think to make everything level with and all parties involved, swapping Justin Haley for Corey LaJoie makes everybody happy.
I guess LaJoie actually had a good run going for a while there last night at Bristol. For the crap show that it actually was, he did have a good run going. But that's not all that happened this week. It's not a driver swap, but this is pretty interesting. Ty Norris. We know the name Ty Norris. We've heard it before, real briefly. He graduated from college with a journalism degree, but he worked for R.J. Reynolds from 1990 to 1997. And then Dale Earnhardt talked him into coming over and running DEI from 98 to 03. He left there, and Bruton Smith had him come on board at Speedway Motorsports selling sponsorships. That was 04 and 05 until Michael Waltrip hired him away to pretty much run the show at Michael Waltrip Racing. Now, that didn't end well. If you'll remember, Ty Norris was the spotter over there that was suspended for manipulation. That's when, imagine the three-car team that Mike Waltrip had going. He had Boyer, Vickers, and Martin Truex. And that's where they kind of manipulated the finish of a race so that their drivers could make it to the next round. It was a $300,000 fine and a suspension. But he made it back and was hired by Spire Motorsports after that. He was there for 6 years, from 2015 to 2020. He left there and went to Trackhouse. He started there in 21, and he's there through now, and he just is leaving there and going over to Colleague Racing. He's a smart guy, but what he does more than anything else is find sponsors. And boy, oh boy, is that as important as finding a good driver, finding a guy that can bring money in, and that's pretty much where Ty Norris is going. It's kind of funny. It just kind of happens in the middle of the year like this, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, and you wonder there was some talk earlier this year about Trackhouse and Colleague working together, and I mean, isn't Shane Van Gisbergen is in the Colleague Xfinity car, and he's a Trackhouse driver. I thought, is this part of? Did he leave completely to do something completely different, or is this kind of maybe one of the steps for maybe those two teams working together more closely?
It's too bad he didn't take a job with NASCAR, because talk about looking for sponsors. Old Flo made sure that Geico isn't coming back next year to be one of their Cup sponsors. That's four major sponsors are the Cup sponsors, and the
Premier Partners is what they're called.
That's what they call them, Premier Partners.
Yes.
I wonder if they're going to drop all sponsors. I mean, don't they have the Geico 500 at Talladega and some other things?
Yep, correct.
They're leaving. Boy, NASCAR's got to do a little scrambling to get that money replaced. To ensure the continued irrelevance of AM Racing, that's the team that Haley Deegan drove for. She was replaced finally with a full-time driver next year, Harrison Burton. So he will be bringing his Dex money. I'm not sure what that is exactly. It's a nice
imaging.
Nice sponsor.
Like some sort of imaging.
Dex Imaging, yeah.
Yes.
They've been with old Harry Burton since he was on his short track days, and then through his limited time racing in the minor league NASCAR divisions, and then it went from there to the Cup Series. Well, either way, looks like Dex will be taking a step down along with Harrison Burton to drive that AM Racing team for Xfinity. They did have a couple decent drivers in that car, Brian, this year, right? I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joey Logano's piloted it. I believe they've had a couple other people through the Ford pipeline that have driven it. I think Barry drove it one race as well, and they had some actually decent runs with the car. So that was kind of what I guess put an exclamation point on getting rid of Haley Deegan. They put those other drivers in there, and the cars performed.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Miller Sales and Service of Random Lake is where to go for a trailer, no matter what you're hauling. Tom and Jerry Miller have been selling trailers from B&B, Trophy, and Bravo for over 50 years. Quality and integrity is what put them on the map on the corner of 57 and K since 1939. Home of the number 89 dirt and asphalt cars of Brad Miller. That's Miller Sales and Service. It's where to go for a trailer, just 20 minutes north of Milwaukee. Call them 920-994-4358.
Fall has arrived, but there's still time to get your landscaping complete before the snow flies. And PMF Landscape Supply in West Bend has everything you need with fresh mulch arriving daily. From premium hardwood mulch to hemlock and pine bark to EnviroMulch in red, gold, chocolate brown, and black colors. PMF also has a large variety of decorative stone and granite, as well as field stone, topsoil, and compost. For all your landscaping needs, visit PMF Landscape Supply, 5470 River Road in West Bend. Call 262-338-8800 or visit pmflandscape.com. Friends of racing for many years. PMF Landscape Supply in West Bend.
The final night of racing to wrap up the season at the Fair Park in Plymouth is this Saturday. The Wisconsin Sprint Car Championships, IRA 410 Sprints, Plymouth Dirt Track Racing MSA Sprints, Wingless Sprints, and Lightning Sprints. Championship night for the Plymouth Dirt Track Racing Sprints. Pits open at 2, grandstand at 4:30, on-track action at 5. This is the biggest night of the season for the sprint cars. We'll see you there.
The Larrabee and LePay podcast is back for Season 3. On the latest episode, Wayne and Matt talk live with James White, former Badger running back and Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. You can hear that and every episode of the Larrabee and LePay podcast. Available anytime on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Presented by UW Credit Union. Here for every you.
Welcome back to the program. As I mentioned, because I was at the Dells race last week, I was unable to really watch Watkins Glen, and I know there's been some controversy this week. A lot of talk, a lot of after talk about Blaney was not allowed to continue after being involved in a caution, and I don't know what happened, and I hope you can explain it, Brian, because I didn't really get the gist of it.
Yeah, there was an early incident involving several cars back by the bus stop there, and Blaney was one of them that was involved. And what happened was Blaney's steering column broke, and they brought the car back. They had to go on the record to bring it back, and they brought it back in the garage area, and the crew was going to fix it, and NASCAR said, no, you're out because of the damaged vehicle policy. Blaney's crew contested that the steering column broke, had nothing to do with the accident. In fact, if you watch a replay of the wreck happens, and Blaney kind of just putts through it. He never really hits anybody, and it comes to a stop to bring out the caution. They claim that he was involved in the incident, so that way you go on the damaged vehicle, or once you get hooked to a wrecker, you're done, and you don't even get a chance to fix your car. He claims it was a failure. Therefore, if you have a parts failure, you can come in, fix it, and go back out in the race because you're not involved in the wreck. So that was where the contention came. NASCAR ultimately said, no, you were involved in the wreck, so you were done for the day. So I think that's something they're going to have to look at. It's not something that happens real often, but if you look at a replay of the incident, you really don't see anything happen to Ryan in that wreck. He kind of just is in there. His car didn't really even have a scratch on it, but his steering column broke. So they declared him out.
It's weird. You really can't contest NASCAR's decisions, particularly during a race, and you can question them about it afterwards, and they'll send out somebody to give you the standard answer. But I don't know. From everything I've seen, it seems like he was dealt a kind of a bad blow. Now, that being said, he did make it to the next round, and it actually doesn't matter very much. But that's the way stuff happens sometimes. So, by the way, CW Network now officially has taken over the Xfinity Series. That's Channel 18 in Milwaukee, Channel 16 in Madison. what I noticed is that you can't find a stream anywhere to watch it. I tried to watch it. I even have, since I have DirecTV, I have the DirecTV app, and I went on there and it wouldn't let me look at it, which I don't really understand what that's all about. There must be a part of the contract with them, strangely enough. But that's where you now go to watch Xfinity Series racing. When you could have seen Cole Custer win at Bristol the other night. By the way, Adam Alexander is the rumored announcer that he's like the favorite to be the play-by-play guy on CW next year. They're using the NBC crew right now. So,
He's also been rumored to possibly be moving over, because he's with Fox, to be part of their IndyCar. New team that's going to be doing IndyCar, because IndyCar is all done with NBC now, and they had Lee Diffie up until the end of the year, and then they had Kevin, forget his last name, he was on there. So they're looking for someone to do Fox too. So it'll be interesting to see if Adam Alexander has to pick one or the other.
All of a sudden he's a hot commodity, huh?
I looked it up. The CW does have like a website. It's CWTV.com, and I believe there's an app, and then you can stream on there now. So
I went to their app, and since it's it's not pay-per-view television, it's just over the air. Since I got the app, I put it on my phone, and it was unavailable. So I don't understand.
Weird.
I don't think the streaming was on for their first race. I think as far as on their website deal, the only way you could have streamed it this first race, we had your provider had like an app, like DirecTV has an app to go watch somewhere else, or Spectrum, something like that have an app.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I couldn't do it, but that doesn't mean you couldn't do it. That means Techno Todd couldn't exactly figure it out. I don't know if you guys saw this, but the FBI paid a visit to Rahal Letterman Racing in Indianapolis this week. Okay, knocked on the door and said, "Looks like we're coming in." And there's all kinds. Well, what I have here is a top 5 reasons why the FBI raided Rahal Letterman's shop in Indianapolis this week. Okay, here we go. Matt's asleep at the wheel. All right, number 5. Dave was a friend of P. Diddy. Number 4, they found a garage door pull in the in the form of a noose. Okay, maybe they've done that one already. I can't remember. Number 3, they were looking for Graham's talent and came up empty. Number 2, they posted a Hillary meme. I doubt that actually happened. I doubt it. And the number 1 reason why the FBI raided Rahal Letterman's shop in Indianapolis, they used the wrong pronouns in the workplace. There you go. Those all came from X, by the way. I didn't make that crap up. I found it. Those are all reasons people gave for why the FBI was pretty bad. I know. Hey, if I was a comedian, I'd be on TV. And, as I like to say, I've got a face for radio, and that's how that works.
Actually, I think one of the real deal that happened was they hired somebody from Andretti, of the Andretti team, who might have taken some of the intellectual property with them over to Rahal Letterman, and that's kind of, I think, what triggered that. That's what the talk is as far as the reason why the raid was. It has something to do with intellectual property and maybe it moving from Andretti over to Rahal when it shouldn't have.
Dave Letterman, of course, has been a part of that program for many years, and I can't imagine that in his retirement he really likes to have his name kicked around as being raided by the FBI. That just can't be something I can imagine that Dave. He's had enough crap in his closet over the years, so I'm not sure that this could cost Letterman or Rahal Letterman's partnership. I mean, that's the way that happens sometimes. We're glad you're tuned in. We're going to come back. We're going to have a little talk with a driver we haven't had on this program before. Is a real piece of work, and you're going to love him. It'll be right after these messages. Hang in there with us.
Miller Sales and Service of Random Lake is where to go for a trailer, no matter what you're hauling. Tom and Jerry Miller have been selling trailers from B&B, Trophy, and Bravo for over 50 years. Quality and integrity is what put them on the map on the corner of 57 and K since 1939. Home of the number 89 dirt and asphalt cars of Brad Miller. That's Miller Sales and Service. It's where to go for a trailer, just 20 minutes north of Milwaukee. Call them 920-994-4358.
Fall has arrived, but there's still time to get your landscaping complete before the snow flies. And PMF Landscape Supply in West Bend has everything you need with fresh mulch arriving daily. From premium hardwood mulch to hemlock and pine bark to EnviroMulch in red, gold, chocolate brown, and black colors. PMF also has a large variety of decorative stone and granite, as well as field stone, topsoil, and compost. For all your landscaping needs, visit PMF Landscape Supply, 5470 River Road in West Bend. Call 262-338-8800 or visit pmflandscape.com. Friends of racing for many years. PMF Landscape Supply in West Bend.
The Larrabee and LePay podcast is back for Season 3. On the latest episode, Wayne and Matt talk live with James White, former Badger running back and Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. You can hear that and every episode of the Larrabee and LePay podcast. Available anytime on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Presented by UW Credit Union. Here for every you.
All right, we're going to try it. We'll see how this works. Apparently, we're having a little issue with our phones right now. Last week at Dells Raceway Park, Ryan Farrell kicked everybody's ass up one side and down the other. I have seen Ryan Farrell have good runs only to end up with bad luck and either get into an accident or a mechanical issue. Well, that isn't the case last week, and one of the real personalities in the short track racing world in Wisconsin came away with a big win last week at Dells, and Ryan joins us right now. This is the first time we've ever had you on here. You know that?
This is, you guys got me good?
I think so. You speak up now, boy. That's like they once told me to do.
All right, we'll do. We'll do.
It was an absolutely outstanding race for you last week.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I've never been in a race that long just riding around up front. It was kind of like every time you get an update, you're like, really? It was only been 10 laps? That's it? I could have sworn it was a 50, but yeah, it was kind of cool. I enjoyed it. It was nice getting the gaps in the lap times and just trying to manage that distance back to Casey, who you never want, anybody chasing you down, but you definitely don't want that guy chasing you down. So it was just really important to maintain that gap. But it was just great day.
My thought last week was when you have a lead like that, you don't need to be pushing that car as much as you were. You kept opening it up further and further. And I'm thinking, you got to save something because we all know there's going to be a late race caution. The second half of that race, it was a 150 lapper. The last 75 went all the way to the checkers without a caution. Why weren't you saving something?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we were a little bit. You can't totally just back it down. I mean, there's, some of the handling is timing and all that, but there was definitely a little bit more in the tank there. If I needed it, it was just a matter of how consistent could I be. As long as I wasn't sliding the car around, that's the biggest thing is don't have the wheels cranked. If you're getting a little tight, just be patient with it. And same thing, center off, try not to spin the tires. But I do got to give some credit to the field for not bringing out a yellow. It was nice to have a race go 75 laps green. I think that's probably technically the longest green flag run of the year anywhere that I can think of up here this year. So
it was nice to
guys.
see
Thank
you do well because you've been bitten many times by some bad luck or bad situations. So it was really awesome, Ryan, to see you be able to close it for once finally.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was fun. A lot of people came up and congratulated, and it was nice. At this point in racing up here, it feels like if you can just win one big super late race a year, that's better than 95% of the people out there trying right now. It's when you got Ty out there, Gabe's running really good, Casey Johnson's running around. These guys are going to win a majority of these races, and for the rest of them, you just got to try to get one. And if you do, you call it was a pretty decent year. And if you get two, you had really an incredible year. So.
And Ryan, we've had you on the Racing Nuggets podcast, and I just don't know if everybody knows the story about your biggest claim to fame with regard to fantasy racing. If you wouldn't mind sharing that, because that really was a big part of your financing for how you really were able to get going with your racing program.
Oh yeah. That's I wouldn't even be here right now if it wasn't for DraftKings firing up back in 2015. So,
come on.
Yeah, no, that's I was like for 6 months in 2016 when it did its first full year, I was like the number one ranked guy. Now that's all conjecture. There's different websites that had rankings and that, but we had won a couple of the 20,000 or more to win games that year. And as that was going on, I was racing for Church, and he couldn't keep racing at the time, and that's Dan Church, and so he was getting out of it, and I didn't have a car, and I had I was just a few years out of college, so I didn't have any money, and we had just bought a house. It was just not a good time to be racing. Not that financially there ever really is, if I'm being honest. And so I threw some money at the DraftKings and made enough that I had a little bankroll going. And then I really started getting into it, where I'd wake up on a Sunday morning and go through all the practices and watch practice and make charts based on what people were saying and what the lap time said, and then I would make I actually had a ranking system based on the finances of each driver and came up with lineups, and it was just awesome.
Wow.
We won a bunch of money. I think we were over $60,000 at one point there, and yeah, so the biggest mistake I made with that whole deal is I went back racing, but it did keep me in the sport, so that was good.
Dave Filer was real good at that too, but he didn't make enough to finance a racing operation. That's a spectacular. Geez, maybe we should call you and get your favorites for who possibly is the next guy. Like, for instance, Kansas next week. Have you looked at it yet?
Well, it's a next-gen car, and it's 1.5 miles, so who knows what the heck's going to happen. I will say I have gotten out of it significantly because the sport's gotten a lot more random. With these cars, and one of the keys to winning that money back in the day was people didn't know how to play the game, and so I did have a little bit of mathematical experience in that, and so I was able to make these Excel charts and figure out what the projected points were for each guy. But the real advantage was nobody knew how to play the game, and there wasn't anybody out there writing articles or giving advice. So it was honestly the same, I'll say 15 guys winning most of the money that first year across the world, and I was just lucky to be one of them. So it's like when Talladega would run around, you wouldn't pick Dale Jr. or, anybody good like Jeff Gordon. You would pick David Reagan because he's going to go from 34th to 13th because half the field wrecks anyway. And until everybody figured out that concept, it was like a gravy train. It was awesome.
And you figured that out, which, at Talladega and now Atlanta and Daytona, it's kind of easy to take a long shot. Whenever I bet, I always would take somebody that didn't, it's too easy to take Hamlin. Plus, I don't like to cheer for Hamlin, see? So I would go out on a limb and take
You got to remove the bias, yeah.
I've been. Yeah, you definitely got to remove your emotion out of it if you're going to be good at it.
Yeah, it's all about the money. You're going to have to root for that guy sooner or later, Logano, come on. What kind of odds do they have? Never really all that good. Well, either way, Ryan, it's been fun to watch you race, and it's finally nice to see you win one, because I've seen lots of races you've been in. It's the first time I saw you win.
Nice. Well, yeah, we've won a few. We got a couple last year at the Dells, but it was a little weird too because it was a weekly show. And but Casey was right behind us in that one too, oddly enough. And then we won the first half of the Halloween race last year, where they broke it into two features. So on the books it said two, but it didn't have that same feel as Sunday did. So that was just great. It was great for the guys to get to experience that. You get so many people that help you, and they come out to the shop and they go to the races and that, and Ty will win the race or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, we had a good run, but to get to enjoy that whole victory lane experience, it's actually just really important for team morale, So,
that's what I was going to say, Ryan. It was good to see you get a win, because you're one of those guys that are there all the time. You make it to the racetrack no matter what happens, and you've had decent runs and had some bad luck, which can kind of get you guys down. But your team's always there the next race, and I think that's great to get a win and to just to pump them up that way.
Yeah, it's been, it's been such a rough couple of years, just like everybody's asked about, oh, you had bad luck. Actually, this year's been actually fairly well. We had a weird incident early in the year where some of the fuel we were getting, and all our fuel was supplied by Oak Creek Automotive, and one of the barrels we got from his vendor ended up having some weird mix in it, and it was basically, we figured out it was two-cycle oil. So everybody, I think, started the year thinking we were having engine troubles with that, and then we had one wreck at Jefferson, but man, outside of those two oddball incidents, it's been really a pretty good year for the guys, so.
Well, Ryan, I'm glad you were able to cut out some time out of your busy Sunday morning and be on with us. It's fun watching your race and more fun drinking with you afterwards. Hope to have you on again sometime, my friend.
No, sounds good. It's kind of cool calling into the show because I was one of those kids on Sunday mornings listening back in the 90s and the early 2000s and looking for updates because I was always a big Earnhardt fan, and of course it was, I had family that wasn't, and we'd always listen to the show. So to be able to call in is just really, really cool for me. So thanks, guys.
All right, Ryan Farrell, the winner last week at the Dells. We're going to sneak away for a break, and then we've got some other results for you from around the short track world. Hang in there.
Fall has arrived, but there's still time to get your landscaping complete before the snow flies. And PMF Landscape Supply in West Bend has everything you need with fresh mulch arriving daily. From premium hardwood mulch to hemlock and pine bark to EnviroMulch in red, gold, chocolate brown, and black colors. PMF also has a large variety of decorative stone and granite, as well as field stone, topsoil, and compost. For all your landscaping needs, visit PMF Landscape Supply, 5470 River Road in West Bend. Call 262-338-8800 or visit pmflandscape.com. Friends of racing for many years. PMF Landscape Supply in West Bend.
The final night of racing to wrap up the season at the Fair Park in Plymouth is this Saturday. The Wisconsin Sprint Car Championships, IRA 410 Sprints, Plymouth Dirt Track Racing MSA Sprints, Wingless Sprints, and Lightning Sprints. Championship night for the Plymouth Dirt Track Racing Sprints. Pits open at 2, grandstand at 4:30, on-track action at 5. This is the biggest night of the season for the sprint cars. We'll see you there.
Miller Sales and Service of Random Lake is where to go for a trailer no matter what you're hauling. Tom and Jerry Miller have been selling trailers from B&B, Trophy, and Bravo for over 50 years. Quality and integrity is what put them on the map on the corner of 57 and K since 1939. Home of the number 89 dirt and asphalt cars of Brad Miller. That's Miller Sales and Service. It's where to go for a trailer just 20 minutes north of Milwaukee. Call them 920-994-4358.
A win that rekindled memories of legends past.
What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here and try to run this play in the alley.
Jacobs breaks a tackle 40, 45, 50, 45, 40 down the left sideline to the 35 and angled out of bounds. Wow, what a run.
Sunday, the Packers head to Tennessee for a matchup with the Titans. Kickoff at noon on Milwaukee's home for the Packers. 97-3 The Game.
And now the LTN Hour presents Dirt on the Dirt with Brian Schmidt.
The dirt track racing scene continues to wind down across the upper Midwest. We'll start Tuesday night, Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, their final weekly program for the foreseeable future, as they don't do weekly racing anymore starting next year. In the modifieds on Tuesday night, Cole Sarneski was your winner. The stock cars was Brandon Schmidt. Thursday night down at Wilmont, they had their first fall classic featuring the wingless sprints. Tyler Cuxhouse was your winner, and the modifieds was Jason Heiderall. Also Thursday night, Knoxville, Iowa, the 20th annual Lucas Oil Late Model Knoxville Nationals. Preliminary feature, $7,000 to win. Jonathan Davenport was your winner then. Friday night, Beaver Dam had a special event in the IMCA modifieds. Kelsey Whittlestat picked up the feature win. And in the IMCA stock cars was Jeremy Christians. The Grand Nationals was Nick Schumacher. Night number 2 at Wilmot for their fall classic. They featured the MSA 360 sprints that night. Brandon Berth grabbed the win. The modifieds was Joe Hunefeld, and the winged crate sprints was Brian Kirstan. Down in Sycamore, Illinois, the Dirt Kings Late Model Series was down there. Mike Spatola grabbed the win. The wingless sprints also in attendance, and Jimmy Sivia got the win there. Rossburg, Ohio, Eldora Speedway, night number 1 of the 4 Crown Nationals. The High Limit Sprint Car Series, Justin Peck was your winner, and the USAC Amsoil NOS Energy Drink Midgets went to Dason Pursley. Locust Grove, Arkansas, the Batesville Motor Speedway for the Comp Cams Super Dirt Series. Billy Moyer, the ageless wonder, just continues to win features. Every now and then he grabs one at his ripe old age, and he grabbed one Friday night in the Comp Cam Super Dirt Series. Tulare, California, for the World of Outlaw NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series, David Gravel was your winner. And night number 2 at Knoxville for the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, $7,000 preliminary feature, Bobby Pierce was your winner. Last night, Beaver Dam, their special event, the features rained out. Plymouth, the Dirt Kings Jimmy Wildman Watson Classic last night. Brett Swedberg was your winner. Dan, you were there last night. Pretty good race.
Yeah, I mean, it was a last lap finish. I feel bad for Brad Miller, man. Brad Miller led that race all the way until probably like the final 50, 60 feet. Traffic and just left the door open a crack for Swedberg, and he took advantage of it and beat him to the checkered flag. I really those are one of those races that kind of sting if you're a race car driver. I feel bad for Miller. Congratulations to Swedberg. He was there and it counted.
Yeah, Brett Swedberg. That probably might be his first feature win ever at Plymouth because he doesn't race there a whole lot. Modifieds were there also. Cody Schrader was their winner in the IRA Wingless Sprints. Jimmy Sivia. Chilton Gravity Park for their fall classics. In the Modifieds, Jesse Cullen was your winner. Stock Cars, Jason Bork. And Grand Nationals was Jake Richards. Final night of the Wilmot Fall Classic. The 410 Sprints were the headliner. Blake Nemi grabbed the win. Modifieds was Joe Hienefeld, and the 604 Wing Sprints was Tommy Sexton. Up at Menominee, the Red Cedar Speedway for the Punky Manor Challenge of Champions for the Wissota Late Models, Chad Mader was your winner. The Wissota Modifieds was A.J. Demel. 4 Crown Nationals at Eldora last night. For the USAC Silver Crown Series, Mitchell Moles was the winner. USAC Amsoil National Sprint Car Series went to Dason Pursley. And the Midgets was Dason Pursley. And the High Limit Sprint Car Series went to Rico Abreu. Knoxville, Iowa, the $50,000 to win Knoxville Late Model Nationals. Bobby Pierce started on the pole, and when you do that, he's going to probably win, and that's exactly what he did last night, picking up, I think it's his 34th feature win of the season and another $50,000. And the big money race of the weekend was out in Tulare, California for the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, the Dennis Roth Classic. Dennis Roth's cars are always numbered 83, so fittingly $83,000 to win, and Carson Macedo took home the big money there last night. And that is everything for this week.
All right, on to the asphalt side of things. As we talked to him just recently here on the program, Ryan Farrell was the big super late model winner at the National Short Track Championship weekend at Dells. On Thursday, the Arca Menards East ran at Bristol. William Swalch was your champ. And then on Friday, the 44th Wisconsin State Championship at Jefferson was postponed. The race surface in between 1 and 2 started coming up. They tried to fix it. No bueno. So basically, they're looking to do it maybe that weekend after Fest. I don't know how well that's going to work, though, because asphalt kind of needs to cure a while before it's going to stick. So we'll see what happens. To be continued at Jefferson Speedway for their big race weekend. Last night at Grundy, the Bettenhausen Memorial, and the super late model Stan Zolods was the winner. And Casey Johnson was also there. He was P3. Rich Bickle had fast time and finished 9th. And John Beal was
that
also
old
there.
Guy.
I know, right? Beal was 11th, and it was quite the show. And I just got to say congrats, to Jeff Cannon, because he's got FRS shocks. He helps Toby out a lot, but Stan Zolods is one of his guys that he works with, too. So congrats to him. He works really hard in racing. The ASA Midwest Tour was up at Elko last night for the Thunderstruck 93. I was up there as well. Great race to honor the late Dan Ryan, who succumbed to ALS. Justin Mondyke, a commanding performance. He ended up picking up the checkered flag, making my husband...
Doesn't he drive for Toby?
He does. It was a good night for Tobes. Also, Levon Vandergeest was P2, so that was a 1-2 finish for Toby. Pretty happy, all in all. And then today, the the CRA is going to be at the Owasso Nationals 150 up in Michigan. A couple folks that we know that are going to be running up there. Chase Berta, who's in the KDDP, Colwickie Driver Development Program, Barrett Polhamus is up there, and Mike Litchfield is up there as well. And Todd, I understand it's his birthday today.
It is. In fact, I ran into Mike and the rest of his family this last week as they were celebrating. I didn't know what the big celebration was for at a restaurant. So, congratulations to them. This Owasso, which I had to look it up. I never really heard of it before. I mean, I heard of it, but I didn't know where it was. It's as far north of I-94 is as Brooklyn, Michigan is south of I-94. So it's basically just north of the Michigan International Speedway, and
pretty nice track. I get a lot of improvements. Egan's ran there a bunch of the last couple of years and said it's a pretty nice facility.
Cool. Well, and then if it's that far away, it's about a 5-hour drive, so could be worse. To make a weekend out of it. CRA, what is that again, Dan?
Championship Racing Association,
and it's its own entity, I guess, right?
Yeah.
They're part of the conglomerate with the ASA Midwest Tour and the Southern Super Series, right?
They have the
three groups that they combined to make the Stars Tour a couple years ago. That was the grand plan.
Well, yeah, that was the grand plan.
That was the grand plan, yes.
We're going to sneak away, do our final break, and we will be back. Hang in there.
As a growing manufacturing company, we needed security solutions. We chose Bonafide because of the services they offer, pricing, and trusted reputation. But it's their outstanding service and support that convinced us we made the right choice with Bonafide.
When businesses need security, they contact Bonafide Security Solutions. From locks and alarms to safes and surveillance, we do it all. We are Bonafide. We protect what you value. For your free security survey, call us today or visit bonafidesafe.com.
The final night of racing to wrap up the season at the Fair Park in Plymouth is this Saturday. The Wisconsin Sprint Car Championships, IRA 410 Sprints, Plymouth Dirt Track Racing MSA Sprints, Wingless Sprints, and Lightning Sprints. Championship night for the Plymouth Dirt Track Racing Sprints. Pits open at 2, grandstand at 4:30, on-track action at 5. This is the biggest night of the season for the sprint cars. We'll see you there.
Miller Sales and Service of Random Lake is where to go for a trailer no matter what you're hauling. Tom and Jerry Miller have been selling trailers from B&B, Trophy, and Bravo for over 50 years. Quality and integrity is what put them on the map on the corner of 57 and K since 1939. Home of the number 89 dirt and asphalt cars of Brad Miller. That's Miller Sales and Service. It's where to go for a trailer just 20 minutes north of Milwaukee. Call them 920-994-4358.
Ryan Rack here from Sunday Night Football on Westwood One. Mike Golick and I will be in Atlanta this week as the 2-0 Chiefs roll into town to face the 1-1 Falcons. Kirk Cousins led Atlanta on a late touchdown drive for an upset win last week. Now they'll try to defend their home field against Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, who also pulled out a fourth-quarter win a week ago. Don't miss it. Chiefs and the Falcons on Sunday Night Football.
Coverage starts at 6:30 on Milwaukee's home for the NFL. 97.3 The Game.
And welcome back. I suppose we should, since we're about to start the next, we'll do that next week. We'll talk about who we don't think is going to make it through the next round. That sounds like the perfect thing to do next week. I just had a note here that I wanted to ask. Brian, this Lane Riggs dude who won not only here in Milwaukee, but he also won in the trucks Thursday night.
Thursday night.
Yeah. How is this team so damn good all of a sudden?
Well, that's a good team if you think about it. I mean, Zane Smith was driving that truck for several years, I believe. That's a front row team, so that comes out of a cup, shop. Lane Riggs just had to get his feet under him. I mean, I don't really remember seeing him all season long either, and he started coming on, I don't know, maybe like around July. You started seeing his name a little bit more, and then at Milwaukee, I mean, holy cow! And that is the son of Scott Riggs. So everybody remembers Scott Riggs racing back in the day, but I mean, that's a good team, and that's a team that just missed making the playoffs. You know, the Truck Series doesn't have as many. I think there's only eight teams that make the playoffs in the Truck Series, and he was 9th. So, I mean, that's a team. Think about it. If they would have made the playoffs, they would have been right there for a championship again, and that team is a championship caliber team. So, if he's going to continue to run this truck, look for him to do big things next year in that series.
And speaking of that series, we kind of keep an eye out for Ty Majeski. Started last because of unapproved adjustments, I guess, but he certainly had a decent finish, didn't he, PJ?
Yeah, he ended up 8th. I thought the guys that really rallied well. They're going to kind of pay a penalty, though, for next week for those unapproved changes. They lose their pit selection, and that can be kind of important for a race.
10 trucks make the playoffs. And right now, as the standings stand, Daniel Dye and Ben Rhodes are on the outside looking in. I believe they cut next week at Kansas. So Enfinger is 7 to the good. Ty Majeski is looking pretty good right now. He's 58 to the good. Sanchez, Heim, and Eckes have already locked themselves into the next round by accumulating enough points. There hasn't been a playoff driver to win a race yet in the playoffs for the Truck Series, so it's going to go pretty much by points. Raja Karuth is 35 to the good. Ankrum is 25 to the good. Taylor Gray is 23 to the good. So you're looking right now at Grant Enfinger kind of on the tipping point, and then Dye and Ben Rhodes looking to get in there. Ben Rhodes, your defending champ, 12 points out. So he's going to have to run really good at Kansas to get in.
He's had plenty of luck in his career. By the way, the Xfinity race, the same story, right? They qualified their playoffs also?
Yep, their playoff grid is now set as they go into the playoffs right now. The top, the Justin Allgaier. Well, Cole Custer was a regular season champion, but Justin Allgaier is 27 to the good. Cole Custer is 21 to the good as they go into the playoffs. Austin Hill, Chandler Smith, Shane Van Gisbergen, Jesse Love, Sam Mayer, Riley Herbst, Sheldon Creed, AJ Allmendinger, Sammy Smith, and Parker Kligerman was the last one to make it in.
Kligerman made it in, and he's already announced, this is going to be his last year. He's never really won anything, Dan, has he? I mean, I don't even remember him winning a race.
Well, he won in ARCA. I mean, he drove that Cunningham car, but since then he hasn't had a win. Like in the Xfinity Series, he hasn't. He's been close.
He's a really good reporter, though, so I think he's still found his niche there.
I agree. They announced his replacement in that 48 car in the Xfinity Series next year. Nick Sanchez is going to be the guy. Looks like he's the number 2 truck these days, and I think he's showing quite a bit of talent, even though I think he's got some, piss and vinegar. I think he's going to be mixing it up a little bit at the higher levels. Is that just my take, or do you guys agree?
I would agree.
No.
Yeah, he's all right. I mean, he's produced when he had to, and not afraid to, like I said, ruffle some feathers.
Taking advantage of NASCAR's diversity program. So, and speaking of diversity programs, Bubba Wallace signed a new contract extension with Hamlin and Michael Jordan. It's going to be a multi-year thing. They're not saying how many, at least at this point. But Hamlin, you say to yourself, well, wait a minute. Isn't Hamlin the one holding his breath on this contract negotiation? And I don't think he's holding anything up. I think they're going to go on with or without him. Well, what Hamlin said was, Bubba's going to drive our car with or without a charter. What exactly does that mean?
Well, it means they're going to race next year if they don't get a charter thing signed. If they don't sign the agreement, they're still planning on racing. And it's such a huge difference money-wise to not be chartered. I can't imagine them doing that for long. It just makes me wonder if maybe in the back of mind they're going to sign this agreement and we're just going to play this up for the media.
And Denny's middle name is Drama, so he loves drama.
But he's just holding his breath, hoping that something is going to change in the contract negotiations?
Todd, they all have the script already. They're just playing their roles at this point.
Well, either way. This is not a surprise, by the way. These drivers, Bubba, he's the one that brings the money to that organization, which there's nothing wrong with that. The difference between himself and Danica Patrick is Bubba actually produces. He does have good runs. He wins races, and he overall, I think he's a great representative for not just that 2311 team, but for NASCAR in general, which is what you want, and that's why he gets all those sponsors, which makes it easy to extend his contract. So.
He also throws a temper tantrum better than Danica did.
Yeah, but put Danica in an ambulance with some guy that pissed her off, and you never know what could happen. There's some real drama there. A guy come out with all scratch marks on him, What was that? We'll be careful. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's been an interesting program. We're in a great time of year right now. The playoffs, rumor mill is all wound up. There's announcements coming right and left. and stay with us for the rest of this season, and we're going to be diving into all of that. Thanks to all my co-hosts here, and a big thanks to Ryan Farrell for being on the program for the first time. He kind of has agreed to give us fantasy picks in the future, so we'll keep that in mind. Yeah. And here's something we want you to remember. Real race cars have doors, even if they do climb in through the windows. Let's Talk NASCAR is produced and directed by Dangerous Dan Margetta. Our engineer is Matt Losi, and for all of us involved with the program, we think it's a great honor that you tune in every Sunday, and we'll see you next week, everybody.
This program has come to you live from multiple locations via Skype. Any and all comments expressed on this show do not necessarily express the opinions of this station, its employees, or advertisers. Your comments are always welcome at mail@ltnradionetwork.com. Find us at facebook.com/LTN Radio Network. And thank you for your support since 1985. Tune in again next Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time for the LTN Hour on the LTN Radio Network.